everybody. Welcome to Flip the Switch. I'm Marla Schultz, your host, and I am thrilled to have this very sought after hot comedian, Bernadette, aka Bernie Pauley, originally from Boston, now in Los Angeles. She's been seen on Comedy Central, Fox, and you appeared in the Edinburgh Comedy Festival, which I am very, very impressed by. Welcome, Bernie.
Thank you so much, Marla. It's awesome to be here. Thank you. I'm good. I'm good. I've got a little green screen bleed through, so I'm pretending I'm one of the trendy kids with green hair or something. So just bear with me.
I think it looks fabulous. And you know what? You can always say you're test driving green hair for St. Patty's Day, because isn't that your national holiday?
This is my national holiday, my embarrassing national holiday. Marla, it's so good to see you.
It's really, really good to see you too. And I think the last time we did see each other was at Lenny Marcus's
wedding,
which was probably one of the best weddings besides my own. And it was the who's who of the comedy world.
It was the food just didn't stop coming out. They just kept shoveling it into us. It was great. Everywhere you turned, somebody shoved a shrimp in your face.
But it was so much fun, and it was so great to see you. But you have been up to some very exciting things. First of all, why don't you tell us about the album that you and your adorable, delicious husband, Al Ducharme, recorded?
Oh, yeah, that was great. We did it with a bunch of other couples. It was so wonderful. The fabulous Vicky Cooperman produced everything, her and Max, and it was just a hoot and a holler. And where did we do the show with them? In Boston at Laugh Boston. Had a great time, great reception. They did it with Carrie Louise and Tom Cotter, four couples all together. They did it up and down the East Coast. Tremendous success. COVID hit. Thank God the album was ready so we could release that. It's on Sirius, it's on iTunes, it's everywhere you go. Just buy it, send us money, listen to it for free. Do what makes you happy.
What is it? Love's a Joke?
Love is a Joke.
Okay.
It's a divorced couple, married couple, dating, just, all kinds of jokes coming from the male and female perspective. It was a lot of fun. And I so respect Vicky and what she's doing. She hustles, she produces, she makes it happen. I couldn't even get my Sirius residual tracker straight because I'm just so bad at that stuff. But they sat me down, and you've got to make it happen yourself these days. You can't wait around for somebody else's project.
First of all, I think you are so funny. I loved your Gotham Live TV appearance. Hilarious about reading young girls' asses and living in Los Angeles. And I loved what you said about marriage. I think, tell the joke where you say you think your husband hates you.
Oh, you're married. Actually, he was my tech guy today, so he does hate me. Your marriage is solid when one day you wake up and realize the person you're married to hates you and you don't give a shit.
That's so funny.
And it's so true, isn't it?
Absolutely. Now, the fact that you and Al are comedians, how do you balance the mashugana stuff that comes along with being a comic or being comics?
Well, we try. We work together a lot when we were on the road. We're not really doing live shows except for some outdoor shows here. We're not traveling. How do we balance? Well, we're not at all competitive. People always ask if we're competitive with each other. And, I want him to make $1 million tomorrow, and he wants me to do the same. I'm happy to hang out in a green room and overeat while people throw roses at his feet. I don't care. I think he deserves the best. I deserve something. We all do. Neither of us has a competitive bone in our bodies either. That's probably another reason why you don't see us on TV, but whatever floats your boat.
No, it's really nice to see. And I've always said I gravitated to the more normal, well-balanced comedians as opposed to the real nutbags and the uber dark and big, real alternative comedians. But you guys appear like, I feel like you and Carrie and Tom, you have really nice, healthy relationships. And it's nice to hear that you both are doing so well.
Oh, well, that's nice of you. I mean, I feel pretty much batshit crazy at all times, but the one thing I can say, and this sounds so cliched and I never even wanted to be married, is we love each other, and that's more important to us than the business and our happiness, and especially the pandemic, you know, when
Right.
you're stuck with the other, like, could you imagine being stuck with someone that you just really don't love or don't like or resent? And I know a lot of people are in that position right now. So
Right.
yeah,
No,
no matter what, I mean, the business is a mind game,
yeah,
and I allow it to drive me crazy just like everybody else, but we try to be each other's champion.
yeah,
Um, and when at the end of the day, I guess my respect for my husband and my love for him far outweighs a lot of the people that you and I kind of have to pander to, yet we have no
yes.
respect for. That's where I've had the hardest time in the business. You're supposed to get the approval of people that you really don't think are decent human beings, you know?
And it gives me Stugatz. I mean, it makes me, it burns a hole in my solar plexus, if that's where acid buildup burns. It's really hard. And especially, you know, I hate to say this, but sometimes women that are in power positions can be really shitty to female comedians. Have you ever experienced that?
Oh my God. Well, you know, my best friend and I, we've had a lot of these conversations since a lot has come out in the last, because, you know, Hollywood has cured racism and sexism in the last 2 years. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, and
Yep.
anti-Semitism. Let's not forget that one.
Yes. Yeah. No, we're all, you know, that Meryl Streep's The Guardian, we're doing fine. We're just doing fine. But when a lot of stuff would come out in other areas, not comedy, I would always take not the politically, I would just say, can we be realistic? Come on. There's a lot of women that, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to sound, I'm not female bashing, but me and my buddy Veronica Mosey, we were rolling our eyes at women that were downtown wearing pink pussy hats that I know for a fact would walk into a green room and just assume you weren't there. They're touting themselves and getting PR as an edgy feminist voice in comedy, but they're actually maintaining the patriarchy and have wheedled their way into a comfortable position. And so, of course, they're going to pretend. It's just gross. That's all I'm going to say. It's gross.
It is gross.
And it's
It is
hypocritical.
gross.
And I would rather a woman that says, you know what, I don't like other women and there's only room for one of us. So this pandering to feminism is what bothers me. That's all I'm going to say.
Right. It's really hypocritical too. By the way, I love Veronica. I think she is unabashedly fearless, which you are too. And I love so many of those. You have great reviews on your website, and so many have said you're fearless and you're fierce. And one I really liked is that your comedy is the polar opposite of your looks. Now, you're absolutely stunning, and you're probably one of the more beautiful female comedians that I came up with. And how do you react to a comment like that?
Oh, well, first of all, checks in the mail for that compliment. Thank you very much. How do I guess it's a nice compliment. I suppose, especially in a decade or so ago, people might have met me and assumed I was one thing, and I'm very much not. When I would work at colleges and perform, I was performing for the janitor and the lunch lady in the back of the room.
Right.
Those were my people. And when I was in college and I went to an overpriced college, I was still bonding more. I knew in my college days, I have more in common with the janitor and the lunch lady. And so those are my people. And sometimes I got myself educated and I can carry myself. I can slide into society and act semi-educated. So
absolutely,
people might assume I'm from an upper middle class or whatever background, but I always have a blue collar allegiance to working people. That's probably part of why I do comedy, actually.
Why?
And, you know, whatever. So I guess, you know, that's a nice compliment, that particular quote about me and my act. No, and, you know, a lot of industry people, not to cut you off, industry people years ago used to say, you know what, the stuff you say on stage is very, very funny, but coming from you, it's not, you know. So that says a lot about people, and, you know.
or people in the industry would give you a comment like that. But then if you look at the generation behind us, they're in little teeny baby doll dresses and they're talking about, spooge dripping down their legs, and it's more acceptable. Are you a fan of that camp or not?
I don't have an issue with women working blue or anyone working blue, as long as you're funny and as long as you're good. For instance, Patty Rossborough is, in my opinion, one of the funniest motherfuckers, and she is filthy. She's filthy. She can play to a theater of little old ladies and they will die laughing, loving her because she's so damn funny, because that's her truth. And when she's telling a joke about blowing a guy and having low self-esteem, it really happened, or it's really coming from her brain. There are other women emulating Edge, telling dirty jokes written by men to appeal to men and be one of the boys. And there's a big difference. Right. And you and I know, I can have a filthy mouth, but I know bullshit. You can't shit a shitter, as my mother would say. So if if I'm in a club, I don't care how many movies you've done or TV credits. If you're talking about getting spooged in the eye the night before, and I know you didn't, or I know that some guy gave you that joke in a green room and said, "Here, this will appeal to the guys." Right. I'm just bored, and more power to you. And I hope you buy yourself a nice car with it. But for me, it doesn't interest me. You probably bore me in the green room, and it is what it is. I got into stand-up comedy for a very different reason than some people. Why? I think there's two, you were talking about that, not necessarily generational, but there are people who got into it for fame, and there are people who got into it because they want to say something. Yeah. I'm not saying it means they're more profound or intellectual or have great things to say. You can be an idiot, but you've got to get your idea, your opinion, or your rage out. That's why I do it. It's my catharsis. But you don't appear like you're vomiting on stage. I mean, when you're watching a comedian and they're just going off and it's like really dark and expunging their inner demons and vomiting on stage, but you don't come off like that because you are so clever and your jokes are so tight. How long does it take you to craft a joke that is going to hit across the board? Oh, gee, that's a good question. Sometimes it comes right out of my mouth. The lazy part of me, some of my best, oldest jokes that I fall back on, embarrassed to say, just came out of my mouth in real life. And they were so ridiculous and over the top, they became part of my act. Maybe you've had this, I've had other jokes for 5 or 6 years, and then somehow, oftentimes it will happen on stage. I will tweak it, flip it, or change it, and it becomes a new joke or a better joke or a tighter joke. Yep. Now, I should probably be more focused and force that tweak earlier and do it in my writing. But also, I sit down and I do write like that, and oftentimes I just make my joke less funny. But that's part of the process. Now, when you're creating, do you sit down and write, or are you an extemporaneous where you're shooting the shit with somebody and all of a sudden they laugh and you're like, that's a good joke? Because that's what I do. That will come up. I'll say that's a good joke, and then I will try to flesh it out. And I'll throw it by Al sometimes. I'll say, is this funny? He does the same thing. Is this funny? And now we have social media, so I can throw it out in social media, kind of test it, and then try to expand it into a bit. I do the same thing. My husband is not a comedian, but he's really funny, and we are constantly doing gotchas. And I'm in the Richard Belzer school of comedy, where I remember the opening line of his book was, if you laugh, if somebody trips, you can be a comedian. And whenever something happens and he'll like knock his head, or I pee myself laughing, and we scare each other, and we haven't killed each other. And I haven't been a statistic or become a statistic since COVID, nor has he. So I would say that, our relationship is, pretty solid. You're in Los Angeles now, correct? Yes. How long have you been there? It's going to be 10 years, I think, or it's going to be 9 years. Yes. We flipped. I moved back 10 years ago. I know. I think you just moved out. Did you know you were doing that? Did you know this is the forever change when you moved back to New York, or?
I didn't think it was a forever change. I booked a big commercial playing yet another TSA agent slash cop for Chase Bank. And it was a huge payday. And my commercial agent said, you know, Marla, you're a New Yorker, you should really be here. But ironically, I was getting more TV work back in Los Angeles because I felt like I was at the top of the B list for, you know, my type and specific thing, right? A big hosting job brought you out there?
Yes, I've had a few of those. So I moved out here for one, and we had the 2 apartments going at one time. Al was on the road quite a bit, and we thought, well, we're not Kennedys having a New York pad, and, you know, so we just let that one go and just came out here for a while, not realizing that prices and rents and purchases in New York would skyrocket. So it's all, you know, you can move back, but you better do it with $10 million.
Not now. Now you can get a really good apartment.
I know. So I just need that $10 million. But yeah, or 1 or 2 or whatever. But
You miss the East Coast?
a lot. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. We love our bungalow here, and there are some great people that we know here. And our dog loved it here. He loved the warm weather. He loved to sunbathe on our little porch. So, and then my husband Al started doing some voiceover work on F is for Family.
Nice. You know what? I remember that. When he's on, we'll talk about that. I miss Los Angeles because I'm closer to my LA comedian, you know, my chick comic friends that I met back in like the late 90s. I started going out there in 99, lived with Sam Brown. And I was really out there for the bulk of, you know, 2000 to 2010. And I felt like there was more of a community out there than, say, New York. How do you find the comedy scene in Los Angeles compared to New York?
For me, I never quite felt comfortable out here. The one place, Comedy Magic Club, for me, is a different type of green room. And I would find myself in that green room with some huge talent, with some huge credits at times. And I find less attitude there. And you get attitude everywhere. But for me, I had a camaraderie in New York, probably too much so. Maybe I should have not been so comfortable, you know, running around doing your spots and just feeling at home. I was on the road a lot because comedy does pay less in LA than it does in New York, you know.
It doesn't even pay. You're lucky.
Yeah. So you have to be out of town most of the time to make some money. So it became, you know, but that also had to do with me being a little older and feeling like I paid so many dues, and I, you know, just to get in New York, it's like, oh, I'm going to do this again. Right. But then maybe that's ego. I don't know.
Oh, it is ego. We all started together. I don't even remember when we met, but I just remember liking you and thinking you were hilarious. But we did the Gloria Steinem big, you know, women's rally.
And didn't we do Henrietta Hudson's together? Did you used to?
All the time.
That was one of my favorite rooms in New York, Henrietta Hudson.
Yep.
And Therapy Bar, which was not therapy. It's a gay bar.
I remember.
Oh my God. Adam used to run it. And it's no longer. All of these places aren't even there anymore. But those were some of my favorite comedy venues in New York City. Weren't even comedy clubs.
There was the Duplex and then Hamburger Harry's.
Yes. Oh my God. Whoa.
With
yeah.
Gladys. Did you work the strip regularly?
I did. That was the first paid spot I ever had. And that was really the club that I think used me more than other clubs.
How long did it take you to pass at the comic strip?
Believe it or not, I did pass on my first attempt. But Lucian took me in his little back room where he would
Did you see that?
Yes, I did. I know. And nobody could believe it. They were all like, what do you mean you passed? I auditioned, and I think I was probably pontificating on stage or whatever I was doing. And Lucian took me in that back room, and for basically an hour, he tore me to shreds. And was one of the owners of the club and the booker. He tore me to shreds. But then he ended up, and he would talk and talk and talk, and you just sat there taking it. And he talked so long, I kind of stopped listening. And then all of a sudden he just said, so in the midst of telling me how much I suck, he said, but I don't know, I feel like you're trying to do something.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to pass you, but you're only going to get, and then I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm so sorry, Lucian. Did you just say you're passing me? And he said, yes, I'm passing you, but you're not going to get regular spots, but you can, sit and wait and fill in for people. Maybe I can give you one a week. And it was just so funny. So I would rather somebody tell me how much I suck, yet give me work and opportunity. Right. Then for me, I find in LA, people are like, you are amazing. You are brilliant. And then they won't pick up the phone.
LA can suck, but I don't know. I got in with Lisa Sunstead, Pretty Funny Women, really early. Sam Brown used to run rooms. There were Comedy Union. I used to play there all the time because I was friends with a lot of the brothers, and I toured with some to go entertain the troops in Japan, which lovely. I know you've done, right? Have you done a lot of tours?
I've done a lot of tours, but not military tours. I wish I did. I still want to do one. No, but I have performed in Asia, Hong Kong, Beijing. I've traveled a lot. Europe, Scotland. One of my favorite, I think my favorite place internationally ever is the Stand comedy clubs. My favorite one is Edinburgh. So I've toured a lot, but I have not done a military tour yet, and I would love to.
Now, have you performed in London?
No. I was actually supposed to end up in London the last time I was in Scotland. And I worked with Al, my husband, but then I got the TV job. So I actually had to leave Scotland and leave him behind. So I never got to London. That was one of my big regrets. So I want to get there because I keep hearing how great it is.
It is great. And I'm a huge Anglophile. And if you need any suggestions on British crime dramas, I'm your girl.
Okay.
But I noticed if you drop the F-bomb as opposed to the C-bomb, the C-bomb is so much more acceptable. I mean, look at Ricky Gervais.
Yes.
But the F-bomb, you say fuck, people will get up and walk out. That was my experience. Did you experience that in Scotland?
No, I didn't have a lot of that. No, I don't think so. I don't do a lot of F-bombs, but I
don't either.
But no, I didn't have that much. Usually I had great shows. Sometimes people would talk with that thick. Is it called a brogue? And Ireland, and they would be talking to me, and I love a friendly heckler. I'll give it to you right back, but not when I can't understand what you're saying. And I remember I would be in Scotland. I'm like, these are my people. This is my heritage. I don't understand a god. And then they would laugh because they knew, but I really was telling the truth. Even some of them in the green room, they were friendly and very nice. And I had no idea. They could have been telling me they were going to slit my neck and kill me. And I was like, oh, well, that's nice.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. I performed in Edinburgh, I think 3 different times. I would do a week in Glasgow, a week in Edinburgh, and then do a couple of other smaller cities, go over to Ireland quickly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, is that a hard gig to get?
That's how I got it. I did the Glasgow Festival.
Ah, okay.
Yes. Yeah. And I met Tommy, the owner of the Stand, who's actually very active in politics over there right now, which is interesting.
Labor or conservative?
Labor.
I follow British politics. Okay.
Okay. We have to talk about that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that sometime.
What was it like performing in Asia?
Loved it. Crazy. Didn't know what to expect. I fell in love with Hong Kong. I've been there, I think 2 or 3 times. I'm not sure.
Really?
It was great. It was great to be able to work there with my husband, Al. The first time we went over to Asia, we were supposed to have a guide pick us up, and something went wrong and the guide quit. So my husband and I landed in Beijing at the airport, and there's no fudging it with Chinese.
Oh.
You know how in France or Germany you can do a little of this and kind of, no, we were like deaf mutes and we're all alone and nobody picks us up. Someone's supposed to pick us up. So I don't even know what happened. Some poor woman this wonderful woman that worked at an airlines took pity. And she's like, what do you mean you don't know where you go, you know? And we were like, we're comedians, we're idiots. So somehow we got a hold of the business. We were working for a businessman that would back these tours, and he had somebody else that would run. He was just a comedy fan, but he was a great guy. He was actually from the Boston area too. And I ended up meeting him.
Was it Jamie?
No, that's Jamie Gong from Hong Kong. The guy that we worked for was swell. His name will come to me. That the guy that first brought us over was great. And he was just a comedy fan. And he was an expat businessman that had lived in Beijing and Shanghai for like 10 years. Had a great wife and kids and everything, but he just loved comedy. So he would bring us over to do these corporate gigs for all the Americans, and all the expats would come out. It was something nice for them to do.
Sure.
But we ended up, because of that little glitch and the guide wasn't there, he sent us to a high-end hotel, but it was a Chinese high-end hotel, not an international foreigners, which they keep you very, very, very separate.
Chinese hotel and going, what do you mean you don't have sesame chicken? What? You know, it's hard trying to figure out the food. Because,
yes. And the food was so good over there, but it was not New York style Chinese, you know. It was funny. It was a different animal, but it was so good.
What are they called? The weird things that look like armadillos that started the whole pandemic, the exotic, they begin with a P, Pangolian. Pangolian?
I don't remember eating Pangolian. I feel bad if it looked like. We were at one place, locals only. It was like a giant dining hall. It was like almost like a giant beer garden, but it was food, and it was everybody was a local just outside of Beijing. And the waitress was speaking to the guy that brought us, and she said, oh, do your friends, because we were the only whiteys, you know, right. She was like, do your friends want to pick their steak? Like, we're going to show you how good the food was amazing. We were just eating. We even had frog's legs, which freaks me out, but they were like the food, like one thing after the other was delicious. And we said, oh, okay, maybe that's what they do here. You go in the back and pick your steak. So we went out back through this winding hallway. And she introduces us to the chef, and he turns around and he's holding a snake. They were going to let us pick our snake, and it was a giant friggin' snake like this. And I was just too freaked out, and it's so hypocritical, but I can't pick my animal I was like, I can't. Like, I was never that kid that could pick the lobster and say, kill it, you know, for me, even though I eat it. So we skipped the snake. It was a communication thing. And or maybe anyway, she had a lisp. Yes. Snake. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you know what was amazing? One guy took us way out of the city, and he said, I'm going to take you somewhere, and it's going to be really weird to you, but trust me, it's very, very authentic. We went to a massage place way outside the city, no Americans, no expats. And we walked in, and all of the massage women were blind. So as an American, I'm like, well, this is messed up. Is this you know? And he said, no. These workers make better money than unskilled labor. So because being in China and them being so practical, it's like, okay, you're blind. So how can you contribute? You can be a massage therapist. And we went and we got massages. It was me, Al, and the guy that was showing us out for the night. And can I tell you, these massage women, the only woman in the entire place that could see was the secretary up front, who was putting us in different rooms. And I was like, I'm not comfortable with this, having blind women in a back room. Like, I was like, is this a slave type situation? These women were so giggly, and because they were blind, I guess they weren't subject to the regular societal bullshit. And they were giggling and laughing. And one was giving me a massage. And she said to the guy that was, she said, tell your American friend she's not fat like most American girls.
Nice.
Like, and they were so loosey-goosey, because a lot of other people, when we were in mainland China, that would meet us were on a script. You know what I mean?
Really?
Like, it was very important to say certain things. But something was not going on. And back in the day, I was in East Germany and stuff. I've been behind an iron curtain. So you know what it is when people are like, hello, You're
Yeah.
going to go this way. And you're
Right.
not. But these girls, I originally thought, oh, they must have a horrible life. This is freaking me out. He said, no, they actually live right next door in like a big, what is it that you live in when you're in college? Like in a big dorm. They're well taken care of. They have great benefits, and they make more money than the unskilled labor working in the factories. So they actually, and they seemed very happy, and they could give a shit. They were like, we're blind masseuses. We're not around Americans a lot, so we just do what we want. Whereas other people were very scripted.
I loved what you said about when you first got there and you felt like you were deaf, dumb, blind, like you were Tommy. I was in the Soviet Union when it was the Soviet Union, and that was like the mother. I mean,
I always wanted to go.
It was really wild. I was there, I was in college, and I was there the year before to the day, April 26th, I think is when Chernobyl, exploded. I was in the Ukraine a year before to the day, which was really wild. And but I remember landing in Moscow and just saying, because it was a Cyrillic alphabet and there's no consonants. So, we would get on we was trying to remember, like, oh, I guess we're staying at Napakarapipakopa. And we would have to remember phonetically because otherwise we would miss our stop. So I can't even imagine what it would be like to land in China and go, well, one looked like, the Prince, the sign for Prince when he changed his name. And then what is that one? It must have been wild.
It was wild. And we were at everybody's mercy, but it was very, very safe. We went out our hotel. We walked down the street at like 2:30 in the morning. And I remember someone said, well, don't worry about it. You're safer. If someone steals your iPhone here, they get 30 in prison. Nice. And it was weird. And one night we were walking in the middle of the night and a man starts walking down the street towards us. He's smoking a cigarette, wearing nothing but boxer shorts. So being New Yorkers, we're like, oh God, this guy's going to like throw human fecal matter at us.
Right.
And then as we get closer, we realize, no, it's just China. It's 110 degrees out. It's so humid. You're like in a sauna. The guy's walking down the street to cool off and have a cigarette and wearing his boxer shorts. You know what I mean? Like, funny. Because, he's a worker. We were in a worker section and everybody's like, it's hot out. I'm wearing my boxer shorts. But it was just so funny. Like, we immediately were like, how are we going to take this guy down if he tries to rob us and kill us? No, he's just trying to cool down and have a cigarette.
You kick him in the nuts.
Always kick him in the nuts.
Come on, Bernie. You should know that.
Yes, my mother taught
Boston.
Me. Yes, you know where to kick him.
You kick him in the nuts, and then you take the back of your hand, and I call it Krav Magaing, and you just like go for the throat, or you go up and you hit the nose, like bang.
Yes, get the nose into the brain, girl.
Absolutely. Carol Montgomery talks about this, about why she wanted to do a female show. And she just talked about being on the road with disgusting guys, having to share a condo. Did you ever have any of those experiences?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who hasn't? I've been on the road with some really, really, really great guys too, though. But
same.
The guys that are good guys in comedy are just like right up there. Like they
are
amazing.
Watch out for you.
Yes. And to their own detriment in this game, and then there were being from Boston and a blue collar gal, like I grew up at the racetrack. My dad was a tout. I've been around the block. I was a cigar girl at one point.
I could see that.
Any fucking soft, dim-witted guy that's going to try to intimidate me in a green room. It's like, I literally hustled cigars for the mafia in New York City and grew up at Suffolk Downs racetrack with the same set. So you better, dial it up a notch. Cause I feel like my mother could probably take care of half of these guys. You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
There was a lot of that. I guess I'm lucky nobody ever hurt me or something like that. I do remember being on the road. Sometimes you were in such scary Motel 6s, putting the furniture up against the door and just going like, well, I hope I wake up,
Worked at Steve Sharippa's Vegas room at the Riviera, and they put you
Yes.
up for a week, and then you have to eat in the skanky dining room.
Cafeteria.
Oh, where it's you feel like you're in Oliver Twist. It was like, please, sir, may I have some more?
Yeah.
Flop.
Yes.
But I am an obsessive germaphobe, and I remember getting in that room, and I think that's when it was about maybe 12, 13 years ago. And I remember seeing a story on 48 Hours with the infrared or the blue lights, and then you walk into a hotel room and it's like spooge central. I remember seeing that, and the room was so gross and creepy. I got extra towels, and I made a path, just saying, if I stumble out of bed, if I had a cocktail, I would step here. But it was like the golden, follow the yellow brick road of towels into the bathroom. But it was so skanky, and just, you just feel like there was death, and a body was left, and it was found 2 weeks later. Like, it just had this stank that in Atlantic City, did you ever play that room? And he just had the grossest feet. And they put you up in the comedy condo across the way.
You just made me think of that. Yes, I worked there many, 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 many times, overlooking the beach.
Overlooking the beach. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it felt like, it used to be like a mental institution.
Yes.
And there was ghosts there.
Yes.
But apparently he had a bad trip, and like, there was blood all over the place and shit everywhere. And I'm so glad I found that out after they put me up there.
Yeah, all of those rooms. There were 3 rooms to choose from, and basically they all looked like there was blood all over the place and shit everywhere at one point or another. Like, you just never knew what you were going to. And it's funny because people would come up to you after a show and they're like, wow, you're the comedian working in Atlantic City or Vegas. So they think you're staying at the Four Seasons. And you're like, actually,
no,
I should be at a homeless encampment because it would be much cleaner and tidier.
Because I am staying at a homeless encampment, and the heat didn't work, and then the light bulb would flicker as if you were in a movie, and then Psycho, somebody would be hiding in the closet. My imagination would just, I'm nuts anyway, and it would just take off. I always say that my sense of humor and being able to flip the switch, hence the name of the show, has really saved my ass, because the ability to turn something painful and flip it and be able to laugh about it always diminished the power that situation would hold. Do you feel that your sense of humor is like a superpower? I hate to sound cliched.
I suppose I do. I feel like it's a superpower. It does help you flip the switch. I don't know if it helps me avoid tackling certain things or handling them head on at sometimes. I might use it as a diversion, but it's helped me, and it might also hinder me taking a better look at some things. But I wouldn't have it any other way, I suppose.
My humor just saved my ass, because I remember when I moved to the other side of town, the tough girls, they wanted to kick my ass, and I made them laugh. And that was almost like this invisible shield. Like, they stopped. Like, having that confidence in the balls to come back and like just shut it down.
Yeah. Yep.
Has always been, I live by my wits, is what I always say. I live by my wits.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. That has helped me in life. I don't know if you know this, I have a real estate license out here. So I come and go. And since I've been off the road, I've been doing a few. I have some really great, really established friends in real estate. So they're like, hey, we know you're not working if you want to come work on some deals. And I will tell you,
wow,
I enjoy it. I've learned so much. And there is a levity to, if I'm at a $5 million house and there's some bullshit and somebody steps in dog shit, I'll go, oh my God, you stepped in dog shit. You have to buy the house.
Right.
And at first my friends were like, you could hear their assholes pucker. But it's funny because even some millionaire buying a 5 million is like, ha, I want to laugh. And I'm saying, here's a tissue. Let's go wipe the shit off your shoes and write the check. And they thought, oh my God, and it helps. So I'm kind of like, I'm a little bit of the dancing monkey. Like, let's trot Bernie out and, but
Seal the deal.
Seal the deal, and things go wrong that people don't understand. And escrows are very, very tense. So I'm not saying I'm like a dog and pony show, but I learn and I can watch how all the realtors, I can tell when they're trying to psych each other out. I can try, like, because as a comedian, you've got to be 3 steps ahead and you know your audience. So realtors have their own shtick, but they're not honed in the way we are. They're also a weird codependent wanting to please.
Very sycophants. Like when you watch those shows, they just seem like they think they're celebrities.
They do. There's a lot of ego. There's a lot of people with headshots that the ego can be worse in real estate. But what I've realized, and I said this to my friend, they said, you know, you bring levity. Like, will you come along with us? And you're smart, so you don't come off like, I just tooted my own horn. The Catholic in me is like, you pig, what are you saying about yourself? But
no, you toot your own horn. You deserve it, Bernie. You're amazing.
I love you. So the point is, when you're a comedian and you walk into the room or you walk on stage, your job is to scan and call out all the bullshit. Now you're supposed to do it in a funny way.
Yep.
But you've got to speak the truth. Otherwise the show's going to suck, right?
The show's going to suck.
Now, when you're a realtor, and I said this to them, I said their job is they walk into the room or the escrow or whatever the hell's going on. They see everything that's going wrong, and their job is not to say it. Their job is
to hide it.
Everything's going great. You know what I mean? Like, or just not call attention. Whereas my thing is, let's get this shit out.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. Like this is what it is. And I think when I'm around real estate, not necessarily the people working in it, but the people, their customers are like, I want that bitch to come along because she tells me everything.
Because
you know what I mean?
Yeah, people love to laugh. I do a lot of, women's empowerment conferences. And I get these women that, especially around giving speeches, because I'm a speaker, and you have these women, they're like, stunning. There was this one woman, stunning blonde, and she goes, I can do this speech in my sleep. And I was really candid, and I said, yeah, and the audience knows that. And she was just shocked. And I said, you know what? Do me a favor, do the speech and say you love farts after every third sentence. And she was just, blonde, thin, totally waspy. And she was like, I said, just do it. So she did it, and she started laughing, and it like broke open this whole different persona. And that's what I love about, being a stand-up. You could throw people off. You just can land a point without being a total bitch. I wouldn't have it any other way. And first of all, doing real estate out there, I hope you're making a killing. Or are people like fleeing Los Angeles?
Well, I always get Marxist about things. The people who are well off are doing great.
Right.
There are people now, in the more reasonable rents, or people trying to lease out their condo that they used to lease out like that.
Yeah.
If it's not over $5,000, it might be sitting for a little while. But then there's people that are leasing out their home for $30,000 and it's gone in a day, or the people with money are, it's crazy. And I think this pandemic, as it unfolds, is just shining a light on the disparity more and more every day in every city. I don't care if you're in Kentucky, New York, or LA. Yeah. And I cannot tolerate it when people say we're all in this together. It drives me nuts. No, we're not. Stop it.
Right. Exactly. And on that note, lady, where can people find you, Bernie?
I'm on Instagram, the Bernadette Pauley. Because I couldn't get Bernadette Pauley. You can follow my page on Facebook. That's where I know it's not cool, but I interact with people the most on Facebook. Okay. And I'm on Twitter at Bernie Pauley.
By the way, when I Googled you, there's so many Bernie Pauleys, like teachers and scholars. Yeah, Google yourself. It's wild. I was like, where is she? Where is she? And then I said, let me Google Bernadette Pauley. And boom, there you were. When I put out my dancing video and I saw you commented.
I died.
I used to do that all the time. I dance in public and I miss it so much. But when I saw, oh my God, I love you, I was like, I miss Bernie, thank you so much for coming on Flip the Switch.
Marla, thank you. This was awesome. I can't wait to come on again. And you inspire me. I want to do something like this. It's so great. I applaud you. Bye.
Bye.
Mwah.